I'm going to make some loud guitar noises with this very simple rig that I've put together with the Fractal VP4 and my late 70s Marshall. This amp doesn't have an effects loop, so I'm using the VP4 as a surrogate for a traditional pedal board. This 1990 Les Paul Custom is going into the VP4, and that's going straight into the front of the Marshall. I'll let you hear how I've got the amp set up at the moment. Straight up 70s rock right there. I have got a wah, I've got a phaser, and I'm using the MXR Phase 90 model in there. The drive block that I'm using at the moment is the Valve Screamer VS9, so a tube screamer. I've set the drive all the way down, level all the way up, and then I have the mono tape delay. What's interesting about this is the mix law for, say, delay and reverb effects on the VP4 is optimized for this setup where you're just running straight into the front of an amp. So where I might be running the mix on the tape delay at 2 to 3% on something like the FM9, I'm running it at 20% on here. So I'm just going to go through, do some noodling and bring in each effect. I'll also showcase a more advanced feature that lets you get a lot more out of the 4 blocks on the VP4. We will talk about that once I've had a play those. So maybe some more Michael Schenker feels appropriate. Setup like this, the guitar and amp make up 80 to 90% of the overall vibe, and I'm just using those effects on there to essentially enhance that experience. You would have noticed that when I pressed and held certain switches, I was able to get access to all 4 channels in each block. So while the VP4 gives you 4 simultaneous blocks, each block has 4 channels that you can set completely independently of one another. And a good example there is that drive block. If I press and hold this foot switch, and you can program any foot switch to do this, I've just chosen to program my 3 main effects on there, the phaser, the drive, and the delay to do this. But as with anything Fractal, it's totally customizable. So I've got a choice between the Valve Screamer, the BB Pre, the Octave Distortion, and the FAS Boost. When I've press and held the foot switch, now I can go through and use foot switch 1 to 4 to select them. So let's say I want the Valve Screamer again. I press button number 1, and then I can continue to engage it as I like. And you saw on there, I was able to press it and hold it again and change to a completely different channel. Now, I've got totally different settings on each of these. I'll show you the actual settings for each drive block. So the FAS boost, I've got the level all the way up, the tone in the middle, and the drive is quite low. The valve screamer is a similar setup, but I've got the tone cranked up all the way. The BB pre, I am using it more as a traditional distortion, so the gain's up above noon. I've turned the treble down a little bit and not that much of a level boost. And then of course the mighty octave distortion on there. This one works really well if you play on the neck pickup with the tone control down. I've cranked the drive and the level on there and kept the tone quite low. So I'll do that. I'll go over to my neck pickup and you get this. Similar thing with the phaser and the delay. The delay is probably more interesting on channel A. I have the mono tape. Like I said earlier, you can actually crank up the mix. There's a much wider range for the mix control going into the front of an amp. The VP4 is designed that way because, you know, it says virtual pedal board on there. The idea is you can use this as a surrogate or as a complement to your existing pedal board on there. And I guess the Mixlaw is more pedal style on there. So 25% for the mono tape on there. Then I've just got some dotted eighth delays here. The stereo mind guy, I'm running the mix at 50%. The 2290 with modulation, I think I'm also running the mix at around 50%. And I know what some people are saying, Leon, the 2290, you can't run it in mono. You can, just don't sum it to mono. So if you've got a stereo source that you're summing to mono, it will cancel itself out. In this case, I'm just taking one of the outputs, so I get a gorgeous dotted eighth note style delay. And if I wanted to tap the tempo in a little bit faster or slower, the way I've got this VP4 programmed, if I press and hold foot switch number 1, it takes me to the tuner and tap tempo menu. If I want to mute my signal, you can see I can press button number 3 over there and I can tune up silently. Or I can come over here and I can tap the tempo in and play along. Those foot switches are customizable as well. If you wanted to have one of them to press and hold to take you to the effects layout or one to take you to the scenes layout, you can get a lot of versatility out of a single preset. Again, there's 4 blocks, but there's 4 channels per block. So it's 4x4 options on there. I'm going to play you all out with one of the factory presets. Straight into the amp, I'm going to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to grab a Strat and just show you how lovely some of the modulations sound in mono into the front of an amp. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments below. If you like what you're hearing on the channel, there are links to my Patreon and the music that I make with my band Ragdoll in the video description. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.